It all started 10 years ago. My partners Marika Stolpe and Jeppe Wikström did a project called A Day in Sweden. And that became a best-selling book and an exhibition that was shown to almost 500,000 people. But everything at that time was analog. Cameras, the printouts were sent in boxes to the editor for the book, and mobile phones had no cameras. But it was still a big success in Sweden. A few years later, we discussed whether it was possible to do the same thing, but globally. Photography had turned digital in most parts of the world. Mobile phones had reasonably good cameras, and internet was spreading well in most countries. To start off, we created a very clear brief for the project. Let's picture the world together in one day. Let's picture the world together in one day. That sounds pretty simple, but it was a few hurdles. To help us to guide the process for all the decisions, relationships, and the priorities that we had to do, we picked 3 words that would actually guide us. The first one was, of course, global. There are 193 countries in UN and another about 30 countries that are independent. To make a global project, we really had to face all the issues of the global, to really be global. The second word was inclusive. We did not want to only work with the professional photographers. We wanted everybody. We wanted the amateurs, the young, the old, the female, the male. No restrictions. The third word was sharing. One of the key reasons for the project was actually to create a self-portrait of humanity, where people can share their everyday life with context, and I'll come back to that, with anybody. All that sounds pretty clear and simple, but we did have some key challenges. First, we had to engage people around the world. We did not have any advertising money, so we had to depend on social networks and our connectors, together with classical PR. And this became the key factor in spreading the world and having people to sign up ahead on our website. We managed to get 65,000 people in 180 countries to sign up and join the project. Even an astronaut, Andre Coopers, who at the time was at the space station up there, signed up and joined and promised to take a photo, and he did. Second, we had to make sure that everybody understood the task. To take a few pictures of their everyday life and also tell us the story about the pictures. All pictures had to be shot on one day, May the 15th, 2012. And that's an ordinary Tuesday, and we wanted it to be an ordinary Tuesday in most cultures. Last but not least, we also had to make sure that people uploaded their pictures through our website within 14 days. The uploading was not uncomplicated because we wanted a lot of information together with the pictures. And uploading on internet is not that easy in many countries. We live in a very connected world, but we wanted to talk to 108 different countries. And all this costs a lot of money, so we also had to find sponsors. We believe a few key elements made this project successful. First, we had a very good advisory council. We managed to get Desmond Tutu, Jan Eliasson, Matti Ahtisaari, Gro Harlem Brundtland, Mary Robinson, Richard Branson, and the Swedish singer Robin to come in an advisory council. That gave us accountability. We hired key people from around Europe that really understood photography. Aiperi Karabuda from Thomson Reuters was selected editor-in-chief. That gave us professionalism. We had very strong support from our sponsors, led by Ericsson. And a good technical solution, despite that no one had ever tried to build a similar platform on a global level for photography. Not that we lack pictures on internet. Millions are uploaded every day. This time, the context and that single day was the key thing. Now, what happened? We did get almost 100,000 pictures uploaded into the system from 165 countries. So that's truly global. More than 50% of the photographers were actually female, and that's very unusual because in most of the competitions, 20% are female maximum. And all the pictures were taken this day. We had to take out a few pictures that was taken in other days. So it really became a self-portrait of humanity. Let me show you some examples. And remember, this is not a photo competition, this is a self-portrait of humanity. Here we have 5-year-old Vladislava from Ukraine. On her daycare center, she shares with 25 other kids. Or Rebecca having breakfast in Colorado with the dog Buella, who wants to have a bite too. And Gillian in Australia doing her underwater training every Tuesday for rehab. Heather in Ireland lives close to the traveling people and sometimes looks after their horses. And like dogs, horses stay loyal if they like the family. Here is Megan in Alabama, had just moved into her first flat, always sleeping with her pink gun for protection. That's pretty scary. Corneli, a former teacher in South Africa, now teaching English to young kids that only speak Shangang and Lesotho. But he uses body language and pictures the first 6 months to make him understood. Yuri saw this in Russia, watching and listening to the afternoon training of the Saratovska Orchestra. The boys are 5 to 7 years old and are playing a very special Saratovskaya accordion. The photographer Stefan here is one of the few who gets access to the tailor's room in the Swiss Guards in the Vatican. The helmets called morions are used on special occasions. And this is an ordinary day at the office for a taxidermist at the Natural History Museum in Stockholm. And this is an ordinary day for Salome in Nigeria, very different. She's been selling dried smoked fish in the market for 15 years. And the money she earns pays for her children's education. Probably the same as for the taxidermist in Stockholm. The small city of Giglio suddenly became famous when the ship Costa Concordia capsized. And now the tourism has boomed. They call it catastrophe tourism. Maybe not the way we want to be famous, right? This picture is quite interesting when you hear the story. The runner is a female university student, and her name is Sepide. She lives in Iran, where women are not really allowed to practice sports. She has managed to get an approved sports suit to make her practicing within the restrictions of Islam. And she has won many medals in Islam and have many records in Iran. Casey here caught her father in Florida when he was training his bad back because he wanted to take a long bicycling competition. Training cricket in Afghanistan at the same spot where British soldiers played in the 19th century. Afghanistan, who almost made it to the World Series in cricket. Some people would pay a fortune to go to amusement park to do this, but in Yunnan province in China, this is the only way to cross the river Nyang that flows down to Burma or Myanmar. This lady is part of a minority Tibetan Burmese tribe and on her way to the market. Her people always live close to running water, but now the government wants to build proper bridges because they believe this is too primitive. In the middle of the Atlantic, at the Cape Verde Islands, they have a major problem with fresh water. This is because of deforestation and increased tourism. Carrying water from pumps and dams is an everyday life for these people. And in a disco bay in Greenland, 200 kilometers north of the polar circle, the fisherman has left the harbor to go out in between the ice that are broken off from the glaciers to catch halibut. And on the other side of the globe, the same day, at 1658, the Southern Light is actually glowing over the ice cube lab in Antarctica, and it's minus 60 degrees outside. It's so cold that you cannot use any transportation apart from your legs, because nothing works when it's minus 60 degrees apart from your legs. Here, Carmen is taking farewell of her father, Jesus Ramirez, in Seville in Spain, and almost the same time, Ria Morris in Philippines is giving birth to her first son. Life is quite peculiar. Now, this picture has two stories. First, what you do as a young boy when you live along the river Karun in Iran and temperatures run around 46 degrees and there are no proper beaches. Well, you take what you have and you jump from the buffaloes. Look at the eyes of the buffalo and the eyes of the boy. They actually meet. So they see each other. This picture was also one of the pictures which Desmond Tutu fell in love with when we showed him when he was in Stockholm last year, just after this 15th of May. And he fell in love with this picture and said, this is just incredible. Now, we have talked a lot about context is so important for pictures. And that was our aim with the TED.org project. A ship running aground is bad enough. But when you see the whole picture, a radio station in South Africa picked up this and they sent out pizzas to the 28 Taiwanese people that was waiting for a rescue. I've shown you just a very few examples. There are about 100,000 pictures on the database which you can go and look at the TED.org. At the moment, we have exhibitions going on at the moment in Helsingborg and in Gothenburg. We have also produced the largest digital exhibition, which was produced on 86,000 screens in 21 countries, shown in one day, the 8th of October. And last but not least, we have also produced a book, 1,000 pages, 1,000 pictures, that is now produced in 145,000 copies and sold, and in 8 languages. And last but not least, we have taken the book, a computer with a hard disk with no moving parts, and we have printed out 10,000 pictures, and we have built a very special steel container where we've taken out the oxygen, put in argon gas, and we have buried it in the Falu Koppargruva, so everybody can go and see it. Go and watch TED.org. Thank you.